And we're back. And our guest on this portion of the home version of Perspectives is Heather Duncan. Heather is acting executive director or interim executive director of Living Arts Tulsa. Heather, it's good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me here.
I got to tell you, I know you've got a small staff, and but you guys do a big job. Let's start with the mission statement. I went to the website to gather up as much as I could from your mission statement, and in all honesty, I couldn't understand what your mission is. Would you help define it for me? And I know you're redoing that website or the mission statement, but what is it you folks do?
I think to break it down simply, the way that it was really explained to me when I was brought into the fold to help as the interim executive director, is we support emerging contemporary art in Tulsa. And so our mission is to be there for our artists, to have a place and a platform for them to perform and create their art, and to expose individuals, honestly, like myself, 18 months ago. I've been a fan of the Arts District for a long time. I had been in Living Arts before, but not being an artist myself, I totally understand what you're saying. It is a little bit overwhelming, and that's really what we're trying to do right now is break it down. I like to use the word approachable, but it is and it isn't. Living Arts is a place where someone like myself that's not an artist can actually come in and see artists that I haven't been able to see in another gallery. Artists that maybe it's the first time their piece or their performance of art is being done in an open space. And it's for emerging artists. And that's been something that I have really grown to love. Because of the pandemic, I've actually had the opportunity to stay a little bit longer than I originally thought. And I tell you what, the artists that we're able to bring into the gallery, it's a launching pad for them. So I think it's approachable for the emerging artists, and it's approachable for a guest like myself because there's no barrier to entry. All are welcome. And so when I say approachable, that's what I mean. But on the opposite side of that, Living Arts is a place where artists have no boundaries. They have no red tape. They have no strings. When we work with our funders, we make it really clear that our artists do have free range to explore their platform in its entirety, and we do not censor or screen them. And I think that's what makes our program a little bit different, is whether it is a student artist or whether it's an adult that's finding their way into explore their creativity, even later on in life. Living Arts accepts it all, and that's my favorite part of the program.
So let me be clear on this. Are we talking, when you say Living Arts and supporting them and encouraging them and so forth, are you referring just to artists who paint or sculpt?
No, any platform is welcome. We have poets, we have dancers, new music is commissioned often through our program. It's just a place to explore creativity in any platform. And I guess what makes us different from some other galleries in town, because Tulsa is so fortunate to have so many amazing art galleries. We are a contemporary art gallery, but we are a nonprofit. So we definitely serve the community through, again, giving these artists access for a platform. We can maybe talk a little bit later about how we pivoted during the pandemic, because our brick and mortar building really was, the canvas for all of these artists to bring their art, whether it was hanging on the wall, sitting on a podium, or being performed on our stage. But the fact that we're a nonprofit and we are able to, again, engage these artists, open the doors for free to the public. We do not charge admission for viewing of our exhibitions. And additionally, we do allow our artists to sell their art in our gallery if it's something that they're willing to have up for purchase. And we take the tiniest slice of a commission. And again, that's to fund our mission and allow us to stay open. The remaining of proceeds goes directly to the artists, and we get that money back to them as quickly as possible so they can continue to explore their art.
Well, your organization is sorely needed because, quite frankly, for reasons known only to the creative gods, this part of the world is a bit of a hotbed in terms of creative talents. We have a lot of folks living here who paint, who sculpt, who have all sorts of ideas in terms of whatever medium they're looking at. We have young singers, we have writers, we have musical composers, we have musicians. They're all around us, and they really need your platform.
I agree with you. One thing that has been really interesting for me, because I have served many nonprofits, either as a volunteer or as an employee in the Tulsa community. And one thing that has stood out to me is the support from our board and our donors, and really our individual patrons that come into the building. They love that we find a way to work with the artists, and we try to get to yes for them so that, again, they can experiment, their art can be seen perhaps for the first time ever. And what we see happen often is an artist will have something hanging on our walls for a member showcase. Maybe there's 27 different artists in the gallery at that time, but they get exposure because we don't charge admission, and we have crowds come through on First Friday, or during the pandemic we were doing virtual galleries. These artists are seen. The artists are so thrilled when their piece is purchased, and we really have to encourage them to even consider charging a more competitive price, because they're just so happy that their art is being picked up. But then we love when we walk past a gallery, or when we're traveling through Bentonville or different parts of the country, when we see one of our Tulsa artists that got their very first start at Living Arts in one of our exhibitions,
Yeah.
it's incredible. And the same with our poets and our musicians. There's so many wonderful artists in the Arts Fellowship program and different coalitions in Tulsa, and a lot of them decided to let the world see their talent for the first time at Living Arts, and that gave them the encouragement they needed to pursue it in the future.
And you give an artist, a young budding artist, that kind of encouragement, the world becomes their oyster.
I agree with you. And other arts organizations are so supportive of us because they see our niche in the Tulsa community and they know it's important. And the other thing that's great about Living Arts is there's safety in numbers. If you're an emerging artist, it is a lot of fun to be a part of a group show. It's a lot of fun to come in and hear from artists that have had more exposure or success, whether it's Tulsa regionally or nationally. And the community is so wonderful because they truly help each other. They are encouraging. They give really honest feedback. And it can be
Yeah.
as basic as how to stretch a canvas. And I love that the community
One of the
supports.
things that's disturbed me, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Heather, but I've got to get this plug in. One of the things that has disturbed me about Oklahoma is its lack of support for education. Now, I'm not talking about the residents. I'm talking about the leadership. And I've been here better part of 35, 40 years, and I don't think I've seen public education damaged to the extent it has been just in the last couple of years. With that said, the first areas to suffer always end up to be the arts. Painting, music, writing, whatever. And anybody who knows anything about education knows when you come down on music, you affect a lot in a student. Those who are offered an opportunity to grow in music excel in math. And that's hard. There is hard proof to back that up nationwide. And there's so many things that we need to do as Tulsans, as Oklahomans, to get behind the educational effort, because I'm convinced that our schools are going to produce some of the most astounding artworks in the world before it's all said and done.
I agree with you. And I think that's one of our biggest concerns as an organization responding to the pandemic, because what gains we have seen in our community through, great education programs that have come in, unfortunately haven't been able to be organized during the pandemic because we haven't had access to the
Sure,
students.
sure.
And when school comes back, it's probably not going to be one of the top priorities to kick back into gear right at the beginning. And so that is a concern for us. I know organizations like Living Arts and many in our community are trying to create free art education programs for all mediums that can be accessible virtually. I know camps are going to be back in session this summer. We have donors that are willing to underwrite the cost of camps. There's so many great programs in the Tulsa community. I will tell you that I think Living Arts is one of the most approachable for beginning art students in any medium, and as well as the most affordable. But from the range of talent and skill set that's out there, hopefully parents are going to have access and students are going to get that enrichment that they need, because I do think it's one of the biggest pieces that will suffer when we come back from the
Oh
pandemic
yeah,
next.
yeah. And you could see that lack of support and the harshness on the arts and education even prior to the pandemic. So it's
Mm-hmm.
good to see, we're all now on a level playing field coming out of this mess. And hopefully folks in Oklahoma City will realize, you know what, maybe we better support more than football.
I agree. And I do see that donors haven't forgot about art education during the pandemic. They definitely have helped us pivot funding that we had to give directly to students in person um, sessions. They've allowed us to pivot those funding dollars to not only buy equipment, but to pay artist teachers to create virtual education opportunities online,
Sure.
and as well as in person this summer. And we're so grateful that those local foundations and individuals have gone above and beyond to make art education possible for us, even if it was done virtually outside of,
Heather,
the
I
typical
have to
classroom.
interrupt you here. Let's get your website, your web address up on the screen, and folks that want to contribute or support can do it. We're out of time. I want you back. Thank you for joining us today, though.
Thank you for having us.
We'll
Take
talk
care.
again. We're out of time, folks. Wear a mask. We'll see you next time.